Win Over Depression. I am your host, Tamara Trotter, and today we'll be talking about situational depression. We have a special guest with us today, and we're going to be interviewing her about her experience with situational depression and how she has dealt with grief. So, thank you so much for joining us, Feledier.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you.
Thank you. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Feledier Thrower. I have known Tamara Trotter and Win Over Depression platform since 2014. So I've known her several years. I am a children's social services supervisor with the County of Riverside. I've been with the County of Riverside for the past 23 years. So that's just a little bit about me. I have one daughter who is 30 and lives in Washington, D.C. And I have a beautiful granddaughter that is 8 years old, and she's also in D.C. So I'm excited when they come to visit, and I get to go visit D.C. And a beautiful, amazing family that cares for me and that I'm really close to.
Oh, that is so fantastic. I am so glad that you were able to join me today on this podcast. And so I know that from being your friend, that you are someone who is upbeat, lively, loves to dance, always likes to be in the know, and is probably the the person that I know knows all about jazz and all types of music. And so you know that I suffer from depression and it hasn't affected our friendship at all. As a matter of fact, one thing that I want my viewers to know is that you have been someone who has wanted to learn more about what depression is all about. I know that when we first became friends, you didn't really understand it. And so I know that you've gone through a lot these past couple of years, especially with COVID, and you've had some situational depression in your own life. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that, please?
I have. And yes, that is absolutely true, Tamara. I mean, when you hear about depression, you don't understand that there's different levels. So just as my friend and a Riverside County employee as well. So we talk about a lot of things, and that was one thing that I had not kind of experienced up close and personal. So you taught me a whole lot about it. But little did I know that I was going to experience situational depression up close and very, very personal. I lost my father, who was very near and dear to me, January 9th, 2021. And 3 weeks later, I lost my dear mother on her birthday, February 5th of 2021. And it changed my life. And I've heard that grief changes you, but you have no clue when you're dealing with it yourself. And it truly, truly changes you. So I can honestly say that I'm not the person that I was prior to 2021. I was deeply, deeply depressed when I lost my parents, to the point where, I literally had to talk myself to say, you need to get out of the bed, you need to get out of the bed, and literally could just roll over to actually slip out of the bed to put my feet on the floor because I knew I just had to. Um, I'll go back just a little bit. Prior to losing both of my parents, my mom had triple bypass surgery right before COVID. So I think right after COVID. So COVID hit like March 7th, 8th, and my mom had her surgery like 16, 17, something like that. So my mother survived triple bypass surgery only to pass away due to COVID. So you can imagine how that was even more grief on me because I couldn't understand the fact that my mother survived triple bypass surgery, which is a very serious surgery, and then pass away due to COVID. So that was very, very difficult and for my family. So not only did I lose my parents, I actually left my home for 2 years. So I have a home of my own, and I moved in with my parents and my sister because my sister needed me to help her take care of my mom because of the triple bypass surgery, which I said is a very serious surgery. So that was another for me kind of loss because I lost my own space for 2 years, but I sacrificed. So I went to live with them and care for my mom. And we, thank goodness, we were able to, I was able to telework. So I was able to help and still work and that kind of thing. But after my parents passed away, um, your life just it changes so quickly because my father passed away. I lovingly called him daddy, so I'll refer to him as daddy because that's what I called him.
Yeah.
So when daddy passed away, um, I'm filling out the paperwork and thinking I'm going to be taking off work to take care for my mother because she had got COVID, got better, and then got a little worse. So I was doing that. In the midst of that, my mother passes away. So I'm thinking I'm going, even though I'm devastated because daddy passes away, mama, which I lovingly call her, so I'll refer to her as mama. Mama passes away. So now not only do I have to grieve for one parent, I have to grieve for two parents. And PTSD is real because feelings are starting to bubble up. But like I said, my parents have been gone 2 years. But like even now, I can feel the emotion bubbling up because I'm talking about them, and they're no longer here. But the grief was so overwhelming, so overwhelming, um, that you just hardly can't speak about it, and the pain was so overwhelming that So I went to therapy because I needed to, and for the first gosh, I know couple of months. I know it was a couple of months. It might have been almost 6. I literally could not speak. I would go there and literally cry the entire time and just tell my therapist, my heart is so broken. Oh my gosh.
Oh my,
you know,
sorry, Feledier.
um,
Definitely didn't want to make you cry, and I
no,
appreciate
no,
much
because I was just, I was,
story.
it's so real. It's so real. And the feelings do come back. And so, I mean, I wouldn't be human. And so the grief never goes away. It doesn't go away. You just,
You just deal with the feelings and
right,
try to
right,
do the best you can to
right,
get out of bed, but you know that at some point a trigger can happen, and whether it's a
right.
song or a picture
Mhm.
or just a feeling, just a thought. And so
Right.
I appreciate you being so transparent with my listeners.
Mhm.
I really want to commend you though. And of course you have my condolences, my sincere condolences. And I know that it's been difficult, but I have also watched you the entire time, and you have really, like you said, it was devastating, and I knew that it was, and I was concerned about your mental health and how you would pull through it. And I agree that you're definitely a different person, and it was such an event that definitely changed you. And so I know that you said that there are situations and circumstances that happen to people. And so this is a situation that caused you to experience episodes of depression. So, what would you say to someone who is also experiencing depression, but doesn't really know how to handle grief?
Well, that was definitely my situation. That I hadn't dealt with that type of depression before. You hear of it, but like I stated before, you don't know until you go going through it. So I think I would tell that person first and foremost, try to figure out the trigger, like the core of what the issue is, and the core of mine was just tremendous grief that I was grieving the loss of my parents not being with me anymore. So I knew what mine was, but I knew I had to seek some type of assistance and a therapist to just talk about it. And you can talk about it with your family, yeah, but I have two siblings that were grieving as well.
Yes.
So, and we were grieving differently. Like my sister, she never went to therapy. My brother and I did. My sister never did. And so my sister, hers, she got physically sick. See, me and my brother didn't get physically sick. My sister got physically sick. And, I had to wonder, was that some of it? And I do believe it was, because my sister couldn't get out of the bed, literally. You know?
Do you think that had she gone to therapy, that she may have been able to get out of bed? But I think, like, people deal with grief in different ways.
Right.
So I don't know if we could necessarily say that specifically, because depression does manifest
Right.
for some in a physical way, and then for others just shatters everything around them, and trying to get out of bed is a difficult thing. So, but I heard you say earlier that the grief never goes away, but I also know that you got to a point to where you had to say, I know my parents don't want me to be sad.
Yeah.
And so it seems like you moved to a different space. And what was that like?
Exactly. And I did know that. And sometimes I would literally speak out loud to my parents, like in the atmosphere, and say, Daddy, I know you want me to move. I know you didn't want me to be this sad, but Daddy, today I just can't do it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
That's a beautiful thing. And it's just interesting how when our loved one is no longer with us, there's so many things that remind us of
Hmm.
that person, and you take on this feeling that, but what would my daddy want me to do in this situation? And you feel like, Dad, I know I said that I was done grieving, but
Yeah.
today, I wasn't able to make it, but maybe I'll try again tomorrow and see where we are.
You know, and I just want to share something kind of funny with you too. And my parents were married for over 40 something years. And so my daddy passed away on their 40 something anniversary. So it was just kind of weird how everything transpired with them passing away. My daddy passed away on the 9th, which was their 40 something anniversary, or it might even been 50 something. And then my mom passed away on her birthday. So we had just several, critical dates, So that was kind of interesting. But sometimes I think, and I would say, okay, Daddy, I know you wouldn't want me to be sad here. And he called me Ma. So I could hear him saying, Ma, get it together. He had a famous phrase to say, get it in gear. So I could just hear him saying, Ma, get it in gear. And then I could hear my mama saying, she called him Danny. Well, Danny, if she's still grieving, then just let her grieve, and then I'll chuckle, because that's what they did. They would argue because, they've been together so long. So I can hear that. I can hear them going back and forth about my grief. And then it would just make me chuckle. It would make me chuckle. So, but that is what kind of pushed me through, just saying, you got to get it in gear. Like Daddy said, you got to get it in gear, and you got to move forward. And your mom just said, my mom would always say, you got to press through. And if you got to kick doors down to get through it, then that's what you do. And so you kick that door of grief down and shake it off, and as much as you can, for you to be able to move forward. And I knew I had to do that because I was off work a year, because I literally knew the type of work that we do. And the type of work that we deal with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So my people skills were not where they needed to be, because I could not be talking to people and bursting into tears. As you can see, I've gotten emotional a couple times and had to literally get through that feeling of tears wanting to stream down. But I know we have to get through this podcast, so I can't sit here crying and you tell your audience I need a moment for her to get herself together. Okay. So just even things like that, just saying, hey, but it was good that, and I'll go to another thing that Daddy would always say, that Ma, you got to go to work, and you can't call out sick all the time, because you never know, you're going to need your time. And Daddy was right once again, because I was able to be off work a year, and majority of part of that year I got paid because I had so much time. Mm-hmm. We did some other things, that kind of compensated as well to offset, but the majority of my time was that I had enough time to do that. So you just never know. You never know. And I am truly educated. I've educated myself, and just, talking to other people about grief, situational grief, and how to move forward with it. So I'm in a better space. I'm not 100%. I'll never be because I've had other friends that have lost parents, and they say, you never get over it. You never get over it. You just get through. And that is so true. You get through. And there's moments where I will just tear up, at late night and just say, gosh. And even like the other day, like there's come where I say, I need to call mom and tell her, and they've been gone 2 years. Or daddy told me I need to tell him that, and I'll just stop myself and just say, okay, well, that won't be happening. And I wanted to go back to my siblings for a moment.
Sure, absolutely.
Um, I gained weight, my brother gained weight, my sister lost weight. So it's just the difference. I went to therapy, my brother went to therapy, my sister didn't. So just different ways of how we were dealing with it. And we all dealt with it different. And we would text each other and just to say, hey, I was just checking, I just had a thought about daddy and I just wanted to share it, and they received it like, oh gosh, I was thinking about daddy too. So, and what about this? What about that? Or I'll send them a song. My dad loved the whispers. Daddy loved the whispers. I would send that. My mama loved Gladys Knight. So, and I find myself like seeking them out. Like I have songs with Gladys Knight and, the whispers and Anita, not Anita Baker, Aretha Franklin, just people like that, because it makes me feel close to them if I listen to it. I would play it for them, and they would just nod their head, tap their feet, and they would just go back to a moment in time where they were actually, I can tell that it was a good time for them listening to that music. So just even doing little things like that, just things like that just help me get through.
And so, Feledier, I know, no, because I know you personally, I know that you're very close to your parents, and I know that even though what happened was all of a sudden, you know that the relationship that you had with them was special. And so, what would you say to someone who may lose a loved one and may not be on good terms with them? Because I know that you were on good terms with your parents, but what would you say to someone who isn't on good terms and may experience the loss of a loved one?
I think just, no matter what, they were still your mom, your dad. And although you may not have had a good relationship with them, or be it you guys had an argument and you were estranged for years or what have you, that at the end of the day, love is love. And it just didn't matter. It was unfortunate, but it didn't matter. And to forgive yourself and forgive them.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive yourself that you didn't have a relationship if you may not have reached out because of some type of pain, serious hurt that you had that they caused, or vice versa. Just that you just have to forgive yourself, because holding on to that guilt, it's not going to make your grief any easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's already hard. Like grief is already so hard. So
Right.
to hold on to things, oh, I should have, oh, I could have, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The
Parents
time
are
is
still
gone.
living. They're still living, but their parents are still living, but they don't really see them, or they're estranged from them. Is there anything that you think they could do in order to restore that relationship?
I think try to mend it, reach out to them. Yeah, definitely reach out, and if they don't reach back, at least, do your due diligence, because the only person you control is you. So do your due diligence. And if you're reaching out, even if it's just a text, hey mom, I love you. That's it. I
Right.
love you. I did my part. I did my part. So if anything transpires, well, and I don't, I'm a believer, I'm not a religious tyrant or anything, but I'm a very spiritual person. So I do believe in the Most High God and Almighty. I'm going to give him the praise and the honor and the glory. So for me, I will say, God, I've done my part. Now work on my mom or dad's heart. If that was my case, that wasn't my case. We were extremely close, extremely close. And so, I smile, when I think about it, because I have no regrets when it comes to my parents. Not one regret, no regrets. I loved them. I hugged them. I sang with them. I talked to them. I danced with them. Just, I have none. So that's my personal experience. And I'm so thankful that God gave me that. I'm so glad that God gave me that. But for the individuals that didn't have that or don't have that, just try, because when they're gone, they're gone.
And so, in wrapping up this podcast episode, I know also that you are someone who is already strong, but was there even more strength, or what did you learn about yourself during this time? Was there anything that you didn't necessarily know was in you that actually came out during this time?
Um, the ability to I am a person that has always been had the ability to press through, but just saying you can do it, like even when I didn't want to, because there was very rarely a time where I I would give up. Like I'm just not that person. But with the grief, there were times where I just said, Mama, Daddy, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to. You know, I just don't want to, and I'm just not gonna. You know, and that wasn't me. Like that wasn't me. But so I learned that when I get to a very, very dark space, because it was,
Mm-hmm.
that even when I don't want to, I have to. And I didn't think I would ever get to that point because I didn't have a difficult life. And so that is something for you people that your life was like pretty easy. We get hit really, really hard. It's even harder for us. The individuals that had a hard life and, you know, and I'm not saying I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth or anything, but I had some niceties in my life. I never wanted for anything. There was always food on the table, lights, gas, whatever I wanted, I always had. So individuals like us, it hits us harder because we didn't really have many hard times.
Hard time.
So some individuals don't bounce back from that. And I thought, I mean, I never thought I would be one of them that didn't bounce back. However, I couldn't even believe I got there, if that makes sense. Like, you know, I know how to get through stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like seriously, we're out there. Like, oh, I know how to get through stuff. So when things happen, like I really know how to deal. But see, you don't have those tools in your toolbox because you ain't never been down that road.
Right.
So I had to tell myself that, like, wait a minute, girl. You ain't all that because you don't have this together because you ain't never lost your parents.
Right.
Now
Exactly.
you might have lost an auntie or an uncle, and it hurts. But nothing is more painful than losing a parent. And then losing 3 weeks apart. No, no. So for individuals like me, and I know you're out there, just know that you are gonna have to like start trying to get a couple of little tools in your toolbox. If you haven't lost your parents or, you know, somebody like super close to you, like start reaching out. And another thing that also helped was when COVID hit, like our department, Riverside County, was really good at like offering mental health resources. So see, I had kind of started, even though I didn't know I was going to be hit like this. So see, I had kind of started, and then with you, Tamara, went over depression, all that. But I believe in divine intervention. See, God knew that I was going to have to deal with this in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So for the one, I'm speaking to the believers now.
Mm-hmm.
God knew I was going to have to deal with that. So he introduced me to Tamara to went over depression, learning about depression and all of that. He had COVID hit for me to be at home, to be able to spend time with my parents because he knew they weren't going to be with me much longer. So I was with them 24/7 for a year and some, because they did. Yeah. So a year and some, I was with them day in and day out. My daddy coming in, interrupting my Zoom meetings, which he wasn't supposed to, almost coming on camera. He did not have a gauge. He didn't, that was just him. So I would have to apologize to people on Zoom because he's just gonna start talking. Right. And I have to put myself on mute again. Nonetheless, just trying to just get some tools together for when tragedy hits, because it's going to. Yeah. Life is about tragedies, and me and my siblings would talk. We talked today and just said, how were we not prepared? Because you can't. Yeah. You know, and we were thinking like, how did it hit us so hard? Because it did, you know. But when you're used to things just being mapped out for you and planned, and you go through the phases and it works out for you, it's a harder hit. It really is. It really is. It's not good. It's not bad. It just is. Because my parents did the best. They weren't saying, how do you prepare your child to lose you?
Right. Exactly.
You can't. So they didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, to even for the time that they left, I still couldn't wrap my mind around they were going to leave. Even they were in their 70s. I still was never thinking, oh, when mom and dad passed, I'm gonna. Even though I knew, I couldn't process it.
Yeah.
You know.
Because I don't think you can ever prepare for it. And even if you know it's coming, you still won't know how you're going to deal with it until it happens. And so I know that you are a subscriber to Win Over Depression, and I believe you've listened to a few episodes.
I
Is
have.
there any one message in particular that resonates with you, or anything that you like to share with the YouTube viewers as well as the Win Over Depression podcast viewers about the podcast itself?
I mean, there's just several. I mean, just listening to it, like something is going to resonate with you. I've listened to several of them. Just education, pretty much, just you educating individuals just about depression because, and Tamara knows I'm super transparent. I'm 55 and this is new. Like in our days, we didn't talk about that. So I can share with how old I am and how, life has progressed for me. And that's it's just not anything that we talked about. Like it was just hush hush, and especially and I'll share too in our culture. I'm an African American female, and I identify as an African American female. And so with that, we didn't talk about these types of things. It was just okay, Auntie Renee, she touched that, you know what I'm saying? And she might have had some mental health issues, but that was our phrase. Like that's what we said, and that's what it was. Like people just let Auntie Renee sit over and do what she doing, and she come and yell at you and scream. And if she had those type of issues, and you just say okay, and like nobody did anything. That's just the realness of it all. But now there's so much out there. There's so much education that there's no excuse for us not to try to get some help and to work on our mental health and to do things that we need to do to keep us thriving and doing what we need to do to move forward. So there's just several episodes, so I can't really just pick one because there's just such a wealth of knowledge and insight regarding mental health on your platform.
Thank you so much. So is there so I know that you have never experienced depression before, and so the situational depression has come up, but do you are you over the depression itself, dealing with the grief with your parents, or would you say that you feel you'll always suffer with situational depression? Does that make sense?
Yes, I don't think so because, and when I say I don't think that I'm going to always deal with the situational depression because I've recognized the things I need to do.
Okay.
Like I have my tools, so I'm not going to lay in the bed when I start thinking about my parents or having a moment. I understand and I breathe through that moment. I go through that moment. I accept it, what it is. Okay, we're having a moment with mom and daddy. They're not here. It's okay. And I can jump out of the bed and I can go on about my day.
Okay.
And it may come back later on that evening. So I know how to deal with it now. Whereas before, when I was sharing with you, I just say, Mama, Daddy, I'm sad and I'm just gonna be sad. And that's what it's gonna be. So take it how you want to take it. And I did talk to them. You know what I'm saying? I did talk to them, and I knew they weren't here. Like I understood they weren't here, but I did, and just say, so you're just gonna have to be upset with me today. It just is what it is. Or I might send my brother some crying emojis. He already knows what I'm talking about. I don't need to share it, and he'll send crying emojis back. We don't need to talk about it, and we have our moment and we go on. Or I'll call my sister, and my siblings and I are very close. Like we were truly, truly blessed to have one another, and our parents have us have the relationship that we have because we don't fight. We have discussions, and we agree to disagree respectfully. And we don't always agree because we're different. We're three different individuals, so we don't. But we make sure that everybody's okay in whatever decision we make, and we move on. And I'll call my sister to say, you know what, I'm really having a hard day. I was thinking about mom and dad. I wanted to call them, this, that, and the other. And she said, you know what, that happened to me yesterday. And we go through it. We go through it. And even with, and you know this, Tamara, but I'll share it with your platform, individuals on the platform. I lost a cousin, and that was very near and dear to me, sorority sister as well. So I lost her. So what was it?
A
A
lot.
year and a half later.
Yes.
So that was devastating. However, I didn't allow myself, which I could have. It could have been a trigger for me, and I could have flatlined, meaning went into bed, couldn't get out, all of that, because we were very close. But I didn't do that. I didn't do that, and I knew that she would not have wanted me to do that. We lost her. She had a 60th birthday party. Lost her 3 weeks after she turned 60. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going on. It's happening, and we have to take care of ourselves. So, but to answer your question, Tamara, I won't go back because I'm not going to allow myself to go back. I have my tools and I have to utilize them, because if I don't, I'm not going to be any good. I know this sounds cliche, but I'm not going to be any good for myself or anybody's around me.
No,
I'm
that's
not.
really true.
I'm not.
And that's why we say that you have to be proactive in dealing with your mental health. And so you have to know what the triggers are or what the feelings are that can
Mm-hmm.
cause you to go into a deep episode of depression. And you have to be able to pull yourself out, because
And there,
one can be with you 24 hours a day to help you to stay chipper and to feel positive. You have
and
to do what you
I moved back into, after the 2 years, I moved back into my home. I moved back. And I'm by myself. I live by myself because, like I shared, my daughter lives in DC. So I know there's certain things that I have to take care of. So I move slowly around the house. If I have something sharp in my hand, if I'm taking a bath, I'm looking around like, is everything unplugged before I go to sleep? Just not everything, but just things like if a fire could break out, whatever. So I'm super proactive, Tamara, and very intentional, because I live 45 minutes from my siblings. So if something happens, they can't get to me fast.
right.
So I have to make sure that I'm doing these things to keep myself safe, because I know I'm so far away from them. And just little things like that, just little nuggets that, I'm sharing to just make sure that you're safe and all that. And then I can't be in the bed. I'm in the bed. Nobody's here. I have to get up. My sister's going to call me. My daughter's going to call me. Tamara's going to call me and be like, okay, wait a minute. Now, I ain't heard from you in 3 days, but that's unheard of. So if they don't hear from me in 3 days, they know something is going on, because I'm a pretty social. Oh, and I would say I'm a pretty social gal. And to go back to that, I went from being extremely social to not social at all, and I know that COVID had a little bit to do that with that. But even now, I'm just not as social. I just don't have the desire. I
Mhm.
just don't have it. Now I will if it's a like a major something, like Tamara, we're going to Aruba, but that's like a major trip and I'm super excited about it. But I would have something planned literally every weekend all month
Absolutely.
for 6 months straight. Like it was nothing. Like, I always come out quite the social gal. But since my parents, and even though COVID is subsiding, we don't have as many, which it is rising again, but I just don't have the desire. And I know that's because of what's transpired. And I just think about life differently. And
Yes.
just being out socially is just not as important to me as it was.
And that's understandable. And so you may get some of that back eventually, but if you don't, this is the new you.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be 100 the way it was, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. So thank you so much for your time
yeah.
today. You have left a wealth of information with my listeners. I know that this is going to be a well-received podcast. I can't thank you enough. So again, I appreciate you. And if you have any final words for the listeners, you can tell us now.
Yeah, I just want to say that number one, that if you are going through situational depression, you'll get through it. And I know that's almost with anything in life, but you have to just allow it to take its course, and just get some things in your toolbox, and that's going to help you move forward. Definitely tap into your support system. Definitely, like, you just have to have that, and pick who those people are going to be, and individuals that you know that are going to actually reach back out. Not somebody like you have a cousin that you know never answer their text or their phone calls. They're probably not the person for you to get to support you, but individuals that you know that are going to support you. And if you have to take the time off work, ladies and gentlemen, work's going to be there whether you're there or not. Like it is. So I was just fortunate, like I said, that I had the time. That my employer was so super supportive and all of that. But even if you may not have that, like even if it's 3 days, 2 days, like just something to take care of yourself and know that you're having a hard time. And if you have to have a hard time, okay, if it's 1 day, okay, 1 day. But any more than that, like you have to start doing something. Like you have to start doing nothing, because the longer you stay in bed, and I'm using the bed as an example because that's where I went. The longer you're going to stay. And then after that, it's just all downhill from there. It's just all downhill. So just one, just get your support system. 2, take care of yourself. And 3, find something that actually, makes you happy, even if it's just an ice cream. Like seriously, like I love Snickers. So if I got a Snicker, like I'm super happy about it.
Absolutely.
So just things like that, and just take care of yourself. And if you do come from a spiritual space, not so much a religion or whatever it is, wherever you need to tap into, whatever source you need to tap into to get you energized, tap in. Definitely.
Absolutely. So I never like to end my podcast without thanking you so very much for listening. You can find us on Pinterest at Mental Health Expert. You can also find us on YouTube at Win Over Depression. And we will see you in the next episode. I want to thank Feledier Thrower for being here today. Thank you, Feledier, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, and bye-bye for now.